Hi everyone, Karnak Star Wars Armada Explained. Thanks for joining me. We're going to be looking at the Rebel Squadron, the E-Wing. So the E-Wing I kind of saved for last because it's extremely simple. It's about as basic as you can get for squadrons in Star Wars Armada. They don't introduce any really crazy mechanics or anything like that. So let's dive right in to the Rebel Squadron, E-Wing Squadron. So E-Wing Squadron's the generic version. You can bring up to 134 points of them in a standard 400-point game. Bottom left-hand corner is their icon. Opposite that, you'll see their point cost, 15 points. Their stats, if you look underneath their name, going from left to right, in the yellow box, you can see that they can move within distance 4. They have 5 hull. Their anti-squadron armament is 4 blue die, and their anti-ship armament is 1 red die. The keywords they come with is bomber and snipe. So how do these keywords work? And I'm going to touch on why don't you see E-Wings very often? And we'll get into that. So to explain the keywords, so the bomber keyword is typically when a squadron is attacking a ship, only the hit symbols deal damage. However, a squadron with the bomber keyword, not only do the hit symbols deal damage, the critical symbols also deal damage. And they're also able to resolve critical effects. So essentially, it just gives them more opportunities to be able to deal damage when attacking ships. Although with the red die, I mean, there's 2 blank sides on a red and also an accuracy symbol. So they've only got, 5 out of 8 chance of actually rolling damage. Of course, with a red die, there's a double damage icon on one side. So, I mean, their probability of dealing damage is still good. But again, with the technically 3 sides that you can still roll. And when I roll red dice, even with bombers, I still miss all the time. Anyway, so that is the bomber keyword. Nothing crazy going on there. Let's get into snipe. So snipe was a mechanic introduced with the E-Wings, and essentially what it allows the squadron to do is to be able to attack at distance 2 with a snipe ability. And this attack ignores counter, because they're outside of that distance 1 when they're being attacked. So to give an example of how snipe works, so again, we're going to use TIE interceptors here from the Imperials in this example. So say we have a TIE interceptor there. This E-Wing flies up and says, hey, I want to shoot you, but I don't want to get next to you where your counter can hurt me. I want to stay right here. And you can be at, this little tippy tip edge here. Again, that's at distance 2. You then roll your attack pool, and their keyword there, essentially it's snipe X denoting what their snipe value is. There's a number there, it says 3. So they can roll 3 blue dice on the snipe. And I deal 2 damage with that attack. And that interceptor is then very sad. He takes 2 damage. Can't counter because we're outside of that distance for him to be able to do that. And that's snipe in a nutshell. Now, snipe, you've seen that on Saber Squadron. For the Imperials, it's a very good mechanic in that it allows you to get around escort as long as you're not engaged with an escort squadron. Because again, if you are engaged with escort, the escort keyword comes into play. You can only attack escort. But if you do have a situation like, I should have had the cards out, but let me throw out a high advanced here to give you an idea of what I'm implying by that. Oops, spawn me a squad. Yep. Spawn me a squadron, please. Thank you. So, for example, let's say this TIE interceptor was there, and we had a TIE advance there, and you had both of these engaged, but or at the snipe of distance 2, but you're also engaged with this TIE advanced. So you couldn't snipe the TIE interceptor because you are engaged with an escort squadron, the TIE advanced. However, you don't have to shoot the escort squadron at distance 1, because you could still technically attack an escort squadron at distance 2. So, for example, if this escort squadron did have Dangir nearby giving them counter, well, you can choose not to shoot that escort. You can snipe the other escort and avoid the counter. But again, if you're engaged with escort, you can only shoot escort targets. You can't shoot non-escort targets. That's because that's what the keyword for escort states. But if there was no escort, again, near you, even though you can shoot the TIE Advance or TIE Interceptor again, escort only works if you're engaged. You can choose to snipe whatever target you prefer. So I want to make sure I was covering that. All right. And if you did have any other abilities to like reroll die, of course, a snipe is still an attack. You know, you can still reroll die, etc. Again, as it says there, you just are able to avoid counter. Now, what happens if this TIE Interceptor is in the middle of that line? What if he's at distance 1, but also at distance 2? Well, remember, as per the rulebook, when you measure to make an attack, you are measuring for squadrons from the closest point to closest point. So just because that TIE Interceptor is treading the line and you can snipe at distance 2, you are still technically engaged at distance 1. So you cannot snipe at distance 2 to avoid counter because you just can't suddenly decide, oh, even though we're at distance 1, I'm going to pretend that we're at distance 2 and attack you. So in the true sense of the word, how snipe works then to avoid counter is that squadron needs to either be completely within distance 2 or again at distance 2 going into 3. Because if he's any closer, he's technically engaged with you in distance 1, and you can only attack as if you're attacking distance 1, not at distance 2. Okay. I want to make sure I was being clear on that. And that is the generic Xwing. So why don't you see them very often? They sound pretty amazing with the ability to snipe out opponents and their bomber. You know, speed 4, 5 hull. Why not Xwings? You know, because Xwings are 13 points. Yeah, Xwings are a little bit slower, moving only speed 3, but they have the same hull value. You know, they still throw 4 blue anti-squadron dice. They're still throwing a red bomber die. And essentially the question is, why spend 2 extra points? You know, again, there definitely are some situations where snipe may be helpful, but it's still a squadron that you have to command. And in a game where, again, you're trying to optimize your points and build a squadron ball that's optimized, Xwings don't really fit into most standard optimized Rebel squadron balls. Because, again, Xwing is already really multi-role. The Xwing is technically a multi-role interceptor fighter, is what I would call it. But the fact is, they still don't want to get engaged, and you still need to engage other squadrons to stop them from moving around and doing things, and just, you know, and again, 15 points. It's just kind of hard to justify that when you could just say, why not more X-Wings and bring potentially some other squadrons that can potentially, you know, deal the damages and things like that. So that's why you don't really see a whole lot of E-Wings. But I have seen people, you know, use like Harris and Dula in 2 E-Wings, because then Hera can give them Rogue. And I've seen that actually kind of be a little bit effective, because then you can kind of hold that wing back, wait for your opponent to do whatever he's going to do, and then you chuck Hera and E-Wings at him, and then the E-Wings just snipe away, and that can be useful. I've seen that to really annoy some opponents, including myself. So, again, have a plan for them. Don't just toss a mass of them in your list, because you really only, you know, they're a specialized fighter, so use them to fulfill a specialized role. Okay, let's get into Koren Horn. I was definitely really surprised to see him get approved. Technically, it's Disney canon, because Disney had to approve this. So the Koren Horn is running around somewhere in the Star Wars galaxy. I'm not sure if we'll ever see him in anything, though. So Koren Horn, as you'll see there's a little dot or bullet point in front of his name, signifies he is unique. You can only ever have one of them in your fleet. Again, symbol on the left is the same. Opposite corner there, you see his point cost, 22 points. He's a bit expensive, but not as expensive as some other Rebel squadrons, but a little bit more than a few others. All the same stats as a regular E-Wing. He does have double brace, always good. Again, he's got the bomber keyword. He's got the snipe keyword, although he gets snipe 4, so woof, really hefty snipe attack. He also has rogue, which again, for rogue, remember, for squadrons that don't have rogue, in the ship phase, they can be commanded to move and or attack. And if they don't get commanded when you reach the squadron phase, they can only move or attack. For rogues, if they aren't commanded in the ship phase and we get to the squadron phase, they can move and or attack, you know, in either order, attack and move, or move and attack. So that's where you're getting some of his point value from, is the fact that he's getting a little bit more of that flexibility of doing things in the squadron phase. Otherwise, he doesn't have a card effect. His ability is just really good stats. Think of him as a souped up E-wing, is what he is. And again, when I mentioned before about Harrison dueling 2 E-wings, I've seen that with Koren Horn, and combine that with something like Adar Talon. I've seen somebody command Adar Talon, the Koren Horn, to snipe and kill an interceptor. Retoggle his activation slider, and then in the squadron phase, he then snipes and kills another TIE interceptor. If you get good rolls. And then again, backed with that Hera and the 2 generic E-wings coming up and also sniping at targets. And I've seen an Imperial squadron list who had 4 generic TIE interceptors, and he's like, "This is great. If he comes to attack me, I'll just hit him back." And he had, at the end of the first round, all the E-wings just moved forward and sniped all 4 of the interceptors, and you lost all 4 of them. And at that point, obviously the squadron game drastically changed. But again, you're spending a lot of points to accomplish that, and you are announcing your gimmick beforehand. I mean, if you're not thinking about it and you're unprepared, it's going to totally catch you flat-footed. But otherwise, you can see they've got snipe on there, and you can probably see that that's what their intention is going to be. But you got to be really cagey then as an Imperial to make sure you're not leaving squadrons or Rebel squadrons hanging out where they can get blasted apart. But that's kind of, that's E-wings. They're pretty basic. It doesn't mean they're bad. They have a role, but that's, again, you don't see a whole lot of them because it's just hard to fit their specialization and point costs in with typical Rebel list building. But like I said, there's various options. Try some things out. You guys are great. There's nothing else crazy or anything going on with them. Thank you for watching. Hey, catch you all next time.